You think you know the Nuggets. You've watched the highlights, you've seen the stat lines, and you're pretty sure it's the same story as always. Give the big man the ball and get out of the way. Not this time. Denver didn't just tweak around the edges this summer. They rewired the parts of the machine that used to rattle when the game got loud. And with the Thunder wearing the crown after that 7-game slugfest, the West just raised the bar. The question isn't whether Denver can keep up. It's whether they quietly built the exact roster that jumps over it. Jokic is the headline, but he's also the misdirection. Everyone stares at the 30-foot lasers and the one-hand tip passes and misses the simple truth. The Nuggets win because he keeps the floor in permanent checkmate. Last season, he stacked 34 triple-doubles like they were layups, and that didn't happen because he chased them. It happened because the defense has to lose to something on every possession. Overhelp, and it's a corner three. Stay home, and he's walking the ball into the paint. Send the late dig, and he's already spraying it out to the weak side. The numbers only look unreal because the read is always right. Efficiency this high has never lived in a body that big. He finished last season with a true shooting mark, north of 65% while carrying usage that would sink most stars. That's not just historic, it's almost unfair. Imagine putting up 25 to 26 points a night while shooting like a role-playing spot-up guard. Now give him more shooting around the arc and cleaner second actions off the ball, and suddenly the word stop doesn't mean much anymore. The first real swing was cold. Michael Porter Jr. out, Cameron Johnson in. On paper it looks like a downgrade. On the court it plays like an upgrade. Porter was a flamethrower, but he often stood in place waiting for touches. Johnson doesn't wait. He moves constantly, cutting, screening, relocating. He greases the next pass instead of killing the clock, and the numbers back it up. Johnson hit over 39% of his threes in 5 of his last 6 seasons. That's not streak shooting, that's stability. Add in a sneaky 58% finishing mark inside the arc, and suddenly you've got a wing who doesn't just live at the perimeter. He can punish closeouts, cut back door, and make the right read. He ran pick and roll on nearly a quarter of his possessions last year. Porter Jr.? Barely 8%. That's the difference between being a luxury and being a connector. Johnson gives Jokic another moving target, and defenses hate moving targets. With Jamal Murray, the question isn't whether he can drop 40 in May. We already know that. The real question is how the offense looks in January when the legs are heavy, and every team is scouting to make him choose. The best version of Murray doesn't force the choice. He gives up the ball a beat sooner, hunts the second touch, and uses Jokic like a slingshot instead of a crutch. Look at the numbers. His assist-to-turnover ratio last year was nearly 3-to-1. For a scoring guard, that's elite. His offensive rating hit a career high near 120, showing how much his decision-making has matured. Give him 65 to 70 games at that pace and the entire shot diet of the Nuggets changes. Suddenly, the late clock heaves disappear, the turnovers shrink, and every pick and roll feels like a quiz with no right answer. Add in his playoff track record, multiple 50-point games in high-pressure moments, and you see why Denver's entire ceiling depends on his rhythm. Aaron Gordon doesn't headline, but he steals scenes. He's the cut that turns a dribble handoff into an open dunk, the seal that flips a mismatch into free throws, the box out that lets Jokic start the break. If Denver looks fast without sprinting, Gordon is usually the reason. He quietly shot over 43% from deep last year, the highest of his career, and his true shooting percentage pushed 65%. For a forward who once struggled to crack 35% from 3, that's a transformation. He averaged over 3 assists a night with a career-best assist rate around 20%. That means he's not just cutting, he's connecting. Defensively, he's the guy taking on everyone from LeBron to Kawhi to Giannis, freeing Jokic from scrambling in space. He may not light up the box score, but his plus-minus impact proves it. Denver was more than 5 points better per 100 possessions with him on the floor. And then there's Christian Braun, no longer just a young role player. He started 77 games last season and gave Denver over 15 points per night while shooting 58% from the floor and nearly 40% from 3. His true shooting cleared 66%. Elite by any standard, let alone for a wing in his second year. He brings something the Nuggets badly needed: defensive energy that translates on the scoreboard. He guards 1 through 3, sometimes even sliding up to 4s, and still finds ways to attack on the other end. He hit 82% from the line after being below 70 the year before, which means he's playable late in games now. Add in over 5 rebounds and nearly 3 assists per game, and you've got a 24-year-old who's rounding into a two-way core piece. If he keeps trending up, Denver's ceiling rises with him. The bench was Denver's weakest link, coughing up leads night after night. They fixed it by bringing back Braun, the guy who made the machine hum the last time they won. His job is simple: cut, defend, keep the ball alive, and hit the corner shot when it comes. He's not flashy, but he's the extinguisher when little fires break out. Tim Hardaway Jr. is the opposite. Flashy when he's hot, invisible when he's not. He averaged just over 11 points last season with Detroit, hitting nearly 37% from three. On a Nuggets team where Jokic creates open looks every trip, that percentage could climb toward 40 again. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, he just needs to be in the right place, ready to punish defenders who cheat. And when you mix him with Braun's steadiness, Denver finally has a bench identity. One guy keeps the floor steady, the other tries to flip it with a scoring burst. The story has always been the same. What happens when number 15 sits? That's why Jonas Valanciunas matters. He's not a Jokic copy. He changes the math in his own way. Offensive boards, deep seals, putbacks, and a big body to steady the pick and roll. He still averaged nearly 8 rebounds in under 19 minutes per game last season, and his per 36-minute rebounding is among the best in the league. He's also an underrated free throw shooter, hitting nearly 88% last year. That means no easy hack-a-big gimmicks from opposing coaches. He'll never switch on to guards, but Denver doesn't need him to. They just need him to survive the 6 to 8 minutes when Jokic rests. For the first time in years, those stretches don't feel like walking a tightrope without a net. They feel like part of the plan. The geometry is different now. Cam Johnson stretches the weak side until the tagger can't help without giving up a corner three. Gordon slices into the gap that creates. Braun hunts shooters on defense, then races into open space before anyone knows who's supposed to pick him up. Murray shifts between pilot and passenger without losing tempo. And Jokic, the center of it all, doesn't need to turn every trip into a masterpiece. Sometimes the masterpiece is silence. 5 passes, 4 seconds, easy bucket. When Denver plays like that, the opponent's spirit breaks. Not because of one highlight, but because every possession feels like quicksand. Of course, the question hanging over Denver isn't about scoring, it's about defense. Last year they finished 21st, giving up too many clean looks at the rim. Jokic's rim protection numbers were ugly. Opponents shot nearly 70% at the basket when he contested. But Denver believes the problem wasn't effort, it was structure. With Braun and Cam Johnson added to the rotation, Gordon no longer has to guard every position on the floor. Braun continues to grow into a defensive stopper, and Valanciunas eats up space inside. Suddenly the rotations look shorter, the scrambling less desperate. Denver doesn't need to be a top 5 defense. They just need to be good enough to survive the half-court grind. With this roster, that's no longer wishful thinking. The West won't forgive mistakes. Oklahoma City didn't luck into a title. They built a roster where all 5 guys guard, pass, and force you to defend until you break. That's the standard Denver has to beat, and that's why the summer mattered. The Nuggets didn't chase big names, they chased behaviors. They wanted players who cut without hesitation, wings who pass instead of freezing, and defenders who rotate without gambling. That's how you outlast a champion. Not by matching highlight for highlight, but by stacking possessions until the other team cracks. There are ifs. If Murray stays healthy across 70 games, the offense becomes unsolvable again. If Hardaway keeps his shot diet clean, you steal playoff quarters you weren't supposed to win. If Braun's jumper stays respectable, you can close with him and live with the spacing. If Valanciunas holds his ground in April, Jokic's legs feel fresher in the fourth. If Cam Johnson keeps sprinting into space and Braun keeps leveling up on defense, that's how Game 7's tilt. This year, the difference isn't star power, it's pace with purpose. Last season, the bench played like they were borrowing the car and scared to scratch it. This group drives it like they own it. The starters are smarter without being slower. The rotation holes are patched. The habits are cleaner. Denver didn't chase splash. They chased solutions. Jokic is still the sun, but now the planet's orbit cleaner. The floor will feel wider, the ball will move quicker, and the lineup cracks won't swallow whole quarters. It might not look loud in November, but by June it will be deafening. And if they're back in the finals, it won't be a surprise. It'll just be the plan, working exactly the way it was supposed to.